1987, with 17, you're flying to the States.
At that point where you think there is no more left in you, you're about 20%.
How did you meet Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Well, because I didn't think that it was difficult. If you want to be happy, you need to grow.
Mr. Dominik Borde, you are a legend, man.
Thank you very much.
And you're one of my very, very first mentors. And it's always cool to have collaborations with you. We've done a couple already on your channel, and you were also on my old channel a couple times. And we said, hey, go fly to Cyprus. And a couple interesting stories for people who don't know you. Number one, you just one day emailed the biggest TV channel in Austria saying that you're an expert and you want to be on TV. And they brought you on TV. And also you've helped a very, very rich Austrian get married to a supermodel. And you had a very good time partying at the wedding. So those are like a couple funny things that I want to put out there right away for people who don't know you. But first of all, thanks for coming to Cyprus. You flew all the way here, man.
Yeah, well, I was here for vacation anyways. I wanted to come for vacation with my daughters, and one of them got sick, so we're now together in a huge villa, but we're enjoying it quite a lot.
So she's sick and she's staying at home, or she got there?
One of them got sick, and the other one is with me.
Okay, got it. Nice. Epic, man, epic. So what did you do so far?
So far, we went to the sea caves, we went for some at the sunny beach, and we had some mojitos and lots of fun so far. So yesterday at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we were like already really in a good mood, dancing on the beach, and so we prepared for this.
How old's your daughter?
My daughter, she's 20 years old.
Okay, so old enough to party with her dad.
Yes.
That's beautiful. I mean, again, like, you were one of my very first mentors, and I remember it was 2011 or something like that. I'm in Vienna. I'm full on deep into personal development, dating advice. You know, I'm working on getting myself out of my shell, talking to girls and stuff like that. And there was a guy that was kind of like a community leader for all the young guys in Vienna that wanted to work on their dating life. And he said, hey, there's this Dominik Borde. He does a seminar, and I think it was for free. I think it was a free seminar.
Yes, it was a free seminar.
Because
the
you
first
recorded
one, yeah.
a program there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what? Oh my God. I have no idea who this Dominik Borde is. Googled you, saw some cool stuff. All right, let's go. And it was, I think, a 2 or 3 day seminar or something.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like 2009 or 2010, something like that. Yes.
And I showed up, and it was fucking amazing. It was the charisma that you had and the openness with which you talked about certain aspects of, you know, male-female dynamics, sexuality. It was so beautiful to see. And you know what? Because back then, the only dating gurus that I knew were kind of shady. You know, all the American stuff back then were always like a little bit weird. The guy who talks about it was always like some weirdo, you know. And then here you were, and you were a really cool dude. You had your life together. You weren't creepy or weird, and you just openly talked about it, like, hey, you know, if you want to talk to a girl, tell her openly that you like her. And I remember one of the things that you said is like, if you really find a really attractive woman in the middle of the day, go walk up to her and tell her that she made your day because she's beautiful. And I even said that to a girl, I think like a day later or so, and she loved it. And what I'm saying is like,
it's funny, you remember more about this seminar than I do. I'm like, yeah, sure. I have no idea what I was doing back then.
And yeah, like that was always kind of like your style, this like openness and just being honest and straightforward with things, and that was really inspiring. And yeah, that one seminar alone was really, really life changing. And you know, ever since, how did we get in touch after that? I can't even remember.
I think I saw some of the stuff you did. And I remember that you were at this. What I remembered, you were one of those guys at the seminar that really put themselves into it and that gave their best. And I kind of liked that. And I saw you, you know, on social media and stuff for a while. And then one time I just contacted you, and I was just asking how you're doing and stuff. And then we kind of met in Vienna,
right? Or did you come to Kiev?
I went to Kiev.
Were you there already, Primoz? you just came visit us in Kiev, and I remember when we ate that ice cream.
In the middle of the night, we had that ice cream, yeah. But it was a great ice cream. I remember that.
One of the best ice creams I've ever had.
And still, when somebody asks me, what do you know about Kiev? I say, well, they have some great ice cream there.
It was so funny. It was like 3 a.m. and we're just eating the ice cream. That's right. You came to visit. And then, ever since then, when I'm in Vienna, we get a steak almost every single time. And so what is it that you're doing exactly now? Because you went kind of from the dating thing to more like relationship counseling.
Well, I started with the dating because back then that was kind of like my own interest, because back then I just split up, and I kind of said, well, I don't want any guy to hurt anymore. So that was my first my first step into this, and then I was just working with guys. And after a while, because I kind of got known all over the place in Austria, and then some Germans came, and then all of a sudden women came and they wanted some male advice. And I remember back then I was still thinking, well, should I do that? Am I able to talk to women and tell them something about relationships and help them with that? And from there, I had couples. And when you have couples, you've got couples with kids, and then you basically have the whole vegetable garden of human problems with all the hardship stories and everything. And I enjoyed that part of it more because it's probably also more fitting to my age and stuff like that, because I got into this when I was already a little bit older. I think I started this when I was like 34 years old or something like that. So quite some time ago. And yeah, so that it kind of developed from there.
Nice. And then when you started with that, because you told me this story a couple times, and I think we also had it on my old channel. So you were just randomly emailing the biggest Austrian TV channel, and you said, "Hey, I'm an expert at relationships."
Well, that's not. Well, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that. We actually contacted everybody. My girlfriend back then, she kind of helped me with that. And we contacted every radio station, every television, everybody. And I figured, well, what's going to happen from that? Not much, probably. And the biggest Austrian TV station, they called me. And they asked me if I can say something about, what's it called? If a guy gets married, but he does it for the money, what do you call that?
Gold digger?
Yeah, gold digger. But there's like a special word for that. Anyway, and if I can say something about that. And I never knew anything about that. I never had anything to do with that. But back in America, I knew some guys because I had a talent agency, and one of my guys there, he actually was a crook. I mean, he was a crook. Well, he used to be a crook, and he like did a bunch of stuff with casinos in Las Vegas and rich people and stuff. And then he got in jail, and after that he became an actor, right? And see, well, he was an older guy, and he told me a lot of the stuff and a lot of the stories he'd done and stuff. So I figured, well, since I know him and I know some stuff, I can do it, right? So I went to the TV station. And before that, I Googled a little bit, in order to be an expert, right? That's just the way you do it.
That's what you do.
Yeah,
right?
You put on bigger shoes that you have, and then you kind of like grow into them, right? And after I did that talk there, the lady came up to me and said, well, next week we're going to talk about this. And are you able to do that? And I said, of course. I mean,
I'm an expert, don't you
know?
know?
If they would have wanted a foreign minister, I would have done it as well back then,
And then that was kind of like your main source of getting clients?
No, I had clients before that already, and that was just the first TV appearance, or that wasn't even the first TV appearance. It was like the 5th TV appearance already. And then they had me there almost every week, and so I got a little bit more known over Austria. But still, that was not my main. That was not the main way we commercialized it, because most people came by referrals. Back then. That was the way it went. And
I mean, there was nothing else. That was that's when I knew you, 2009. But when did you start? Do you remember the year?
About 2009, 2008, 2009 is when I started.
So how did
we didn't do any advertising, none of it.
There wasn't anything to do. I mean, Facebook ads have just started, but barely anybody was using it.
Yeah, well, it all started with a Facebook post of mine.
A single post.
A single post. I had some idea or something about relationship. I don't remember what it was. And I just put it onto Facebook, right? And there was like 5 likes or 4 likes or something like that. And I was like, wow, great, people like that stuff, you know? And then I was sitting, and then I was sitting down and I was just writing stuff and people kind of caught on to that. Yeah, and then somebody said, then I had my first TV appearance. There was something about dating, and then some guy came up and said, you need a website, right? So I made a website, but I didn't even know what I was going to say. And in Austria, we call it Beziehungscoach, right?
Yeah,
relationship coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this didn't exist back then. You know, there was only psychological treatment, you know, and psychotherapists and stuff like that. But there was no Beziehungscoach. People didn't know, but I called it that. And I guess I was one of the first people that in the German-speaking market used that word. And actually, in the beginning, I didn't really know what I was doing and how to write a blog and all this kind of stuff. But that's how we started, really small.
There's so much value that in what you just said, especially for someone who listens to that. Like, number one, I love the fact that you said, oh, I just put something on Facebook and 5 people liked it, and oh, I love it. You know, like so many people nowadays, unless it gets 1,000 likes or 1,000 views, they're like, oh, it's not working, right? But 5 people is still 5 freaking people. You know, like even when I have like a post, like an Instagram reel that gets like only 300 views. 300 views. Imagine 300 people in a room. And they're all listening to you. The room would be packed, right? How crazy is that? That's the first thing. So I was like, be hyped about every single piece of engagement, even if it's just one person that said, hey, that's actually pretty valuable. I've never thought about that. That's already winning, right? In nowadays world with the internet, is like, unless it's going viral, it's practically useless. That's what we think. But that's not true.
That's not true, no.
And the other thing is what I loved is you're like, you know, put yourself on a bigger pair of shoes and just grow into it. This whole idea of like, I had no idea what I was doing, but I don't care. I'm already helping people, right? A lot of people that want to start a coaching business, they think like, only once I'm experienced, only once I got freaking 10 years of experience, only once I'm an unquestionable expert, then I can coach. But that's not even true, because you have to grow into it.
I really did it exactly the opposite way around, because, you know, I never learned like the regular way, how normal people learn something, you know, go to school, do an education and stuff like that. When I was 14, I moved out from my parents' home, and I basically moved into the gym, right? So that was my start. And from then on, I kind of like always did stuff that I didn't know anything about, and then kind of grew into it, you know? And especially, I think this is something I learned in America, you know, where you don't have that typical way of doing things. At least back then it was like that, you know, anybody can do anything. And that's also how I became a talent agent, because there was just, back then I got married for a green card. And
I didn't know.
Yeah, I got married for a green card. Well, that was the Schwarzenegger thing, because he told me in order to have a work permit there, I need to either, you know, be hired for a very special job that nobody else can do, or you can win the lottery. There's a lottery for the green card.
That's right, I remember, yeah.
And the third way is you have to get married, right? And so I found myself a wife to marry, right? and I mean, she knew about that stuff, but she was also in love with me, and, you know, it was kind of like a relationship going on as well. But she was working for a talent agency. And then after, you know, a short period of time, I said, well, we can do this by ourselves. And to be honest, in the beginning, the same thing. I didn't know anything about it, but I kind of got like into it. And back then I was like 18 or something like that. So for me, that was, you know, Hollywood and the whole thing in having a big tower office and all this kind of stuff. So I enjoyed it, you know, but I wasn't really, how can I say, I wasn't really professional about it, you know. Nowadays I would do things a little different, but I just kind of like tried stuff, and that was the way how I adapted to everything I did in my life.
Let's backtrack here for a second. So, because you're like, Arnold told me to do the green card. So, okay, so you're moving out of your parents' house at 14.
Yes.
How old are you now?
I'm 52.
You're looking good, man. Looking good. So when you were 14, what year was it then?
You're better with the numbers.
I'm not gonna do math here. I'm gonna do nothing. So you're 52 now. So you were born in 1971. So 14, it was 85.
Yes.
So what happened then?
If you say so.
Probably. So 85, 87. So what did you do? And then when did you move to the States? And how did you meet Arnold Schwarzenegger? Let's kind of go through that.
Wow. Okay. Well, the first thing I did is I was, like I said, I wanted to become a bodybuilder. You know?
Bodybuilder.
And when I was 14, you know, that was the big thing. I wanted to have muscles and I wanted to look like that because, you know, I was quite a big child. You know, I had a lot of fat, and then I kind of lost it, and then you know, I wanted to develop like a nicer looking body. So that was the first thing. And back then, nobody was doing workouts. I mean, you know, people, if they would have seen somebody going on a treadmill, they would have thought you're crazy. What the fuck? What are you doing? You know, are you like a hamster in a wheel, right? That's how people were talking. You know, what, nutrition? What the fuck is that? You know, that was the time back then. So that was quite unique, and to do something like that, and I enjoyed that. And I basically started working out in the gym. I got to know the owner. And the owner was actually a guy from Australia, but he had lots of connection to America and California and kind of like that stuff. So we were always talking about that, and it was like the big thing, you know, going to the States and this whole stuff. So I was, back then I was working in the gym, and I decided on my, I think, 17th birthday, a few days afterwards, I went to the States. And
that was then 1987?
Something like that.
1987. With 17, you're flying to the States.
Yes.
How were the flights back then? There was no TV on the freaking nothing.
I don't think so, but that probably was the least of my problems, you know. I was so excited.
And then, so you were on that flight and you flew to the California right away to LA? Did you have a plan? Did you have a place to stay? So you leave the airport.
None.
What do you do?
None. I left the airport and I said Venice Beach because I knew that was Gold's Gym. That was the thing, right?
We hopped in a taxi or a bus or what?
Taxi cab. And I was so excited. I was in LA, you know, and all the lights and everything. I even loved the airport. I was going crazy, right? So yeah, and I said, "You bring me to Venice Beach, right?" And the driver, you know, he back then Venice Beach was not the best of areas, right? At night, you know, not a good area to be in. So he kind of like probably worried for me, and he dropped me off at a hotel, which was quite fortunate. It was right next to the beach, and this is where all the bodybuilding stars were staying.
Oh, so do you think he saw you being bigger and he's like, some bodybuilder?
I'm sure I told him that my whole story in the cab back then, you know. And yes, and he dropped me off at this, back then it was called the Marina Pacific Hotel, and all the bodybuilders were staying there. And the lady that was the manager of the hotel, she kind of liked me, you know, and being a young kid from Austria, you know, she kind of like helped me. And the first thing when I went there, you know, I was like, where's Arnold? It was really kind of like that.
That's funny.
And and then I went there to the gym, to Gold's Gym. And there was Artie Zeller. And Artie Zeller, he was the photographer of Arnold Schwarzenegger. He did all the old shots. And he spoke German, and he liked talking German, right? He knew a few words from Arnold, actually only curses.
Yeah, of course, classic.
And yes, and then he got me to meet Arnold, right?
Right away, the first day?
No, not the first day. I mean, I don't really know how that happened anymore, but you know, after a while, and then we also were in a magazine together.
No way.
Yeah, there was a magazine came out, like a muscle magazine, and the title of the story was California Dreaming. And there was like a story about a guy going to America and meeting Schwarzenegger and all this kind of stuff.
Do you still have that magazine somewhere?
I'm somewhere. I'm sure I'll find a shot of that.
Sick. Maybe you can find it while we talk about California.
I'm sure you won't. It's not in the net. It's not in the net. I have somewhere. I have a picture of it somewhere. Yeah. But I have to look it up if I find it. I'm not sure.
Dude. Okay, so how did you get to meet Arnold?
Because I was looking for that already, times ago. You know, I would love. I mean, maybe my mother still has a magazine of that because I gave it to everyone, right? Of course. But I didn't keep one for myself, I guess, over the years. Anyways, so and that was the first connection, and then I actually asked Arnold, you know, what am I supposed to do and what can I do and stuff like that. And the first thing, like the first advice was, you know, you need a green card because otherwise you can't work, right?
Yeah.
And then there were different avenues I could have taken, But then in the end, I decided that I'm gonna stay with the Hollywood agency thing, because that to me was the most appealing thing, back then. And we were doing models for TV commercials and for print editorials and stuff like that.
Nice.
And that's how it all started.
And then how did you come back to Austria? How long were you staying in the States?
I was there almost 7 years, I think.
Damn. So
yeah.
it was like 94,
long time.
93, 94-ish.
Something like that, yeah.
Damn. And then just back to Austria?
Yes.
What did you do then?
Well, you see, back then, that's when I came back to Austria, I don't even remember what did I do first. I was selling something. I think I was working at a car dealership or something like that. Nothing big. And then afterwards, what was the next thing I was doing? I was doing many things.
What made you go back from the States?
Okay, well, that's another long story. We need 4 podcasts to tell all that.
We got time.
Okay, well, the first thing back then in the 80s, there was like a big thing with the police beating up on some black guy. Back then, and there were like big riots in LA, and they burned everything down.
The LA
it was
riots.
Called the LA riots.
I mean,
right.
I don't remember being, but I read about it. I was like 4 years old.
Yes. And I was over there, and the whole agency business and this whole thing kind of like crashed down, right? And I went really broke back then, like really broke. I was like selling my car, sleeping on the floor, having barely anything to eat and stuff. So that was a really hard time. But I was like, I don't want to go back. I want to push this through and make it. And back then, my brother, he had an idea in Austria to build some business thing, which then actually never happened. So, but I went over there to kind of like start that, and then didn't work out. And then I was there for a while, and then I started the next thing.
Damn, what a crazy life. Were you always like that, or was that something that you grew into? I know for me, I was always safety and do, the right thing, go study. And then really
never.
At one point for me, it was like, you know what? Why? Fuck this. And that's where, also, things like your seminar, I'm like, inspired me so much. I'm like, maybe the normal path isn't for me. But for me, it was something very much that I switched within the time frame of a year or two. For you, was that always the case, or was there also a switch like it was for me?
I never loved school. I always hated it. I didn't like it, and I didn't study at all, anything, right? It happened afterwards. Like when I did all my educations, for becoming a coach and everything that I got interested in, and all the other stuff I did, I kind of like, then when I had interest for it, I learned it. But in school, I was hardly ever there. Like I said,
The classic, all right.
Yeah.
Your brother the same, or were you the only one in the family?
Actually, it's my I have one half brother and 2 stepbrothers, so we're kind of like totally different, right? So you can't compare, but he doesn't like school either. So in that way, we're the same.
It's funny because for me, in my family, it was like I was the kid that was academically good. I was always good in school. At first, the teachers kept saying he could be so good, he could be so smart, but he doesn't give a damn enough, because I was always joking with my, the guy that sat next to me in school, stuff like that. But then towards the end of high school, I really started. I mean, I always had good grades. Towards the end of high school, I just wanted to get all A's. So I got all A's, straight A's everywhere, just to prove them that I could do it, or to prove myself, I guess. And then my brother was always the one who's really bad in school. He was always the one that, he had to get extra teachers, like homeschooling and stuff like that. Like my memory of childhood is so vivid about my mom, practicing French vocabulary with my brother and doing math homework with him, like all day. He was like, my mom was fully occupied with getting my brother through school. My little sister, for her, was kind of like a mix. She was doing fine. Just like a typical girl, was doing fine enough. But for me, I was always like the overperformer, and my brother was always kind of like, quote unquote, the black sheep. And then when I was around 19, 20, when I got into this whole dating thing, and then, I had the opportunity to work for free for RSD Tyler as an assistant. It was a similar story to yours. Like I basically had the opportunity to work for free for 6 months unpaid in the States as an unpaid assistant. So I kind of also had to fly there and stuff like that. But when I pitched that idea to my parents, because I needed money to do it, they were like,
they loved it for sure.
Yeah. They were like, wait, you, like, your brother maybe, but not you. Like, you have everything going in the real world for you. You got good grades. Now you're studying. You're pretty good at studying as well. Like, and I'm like, I went home and I'm like, hey, I quit university. I need $5,000 to travel to the States to work for free. And they're like, you're joking, right? Like, that's so not you. Maybe your brother would do that, but not you. What the hell? Like, where is all these crazy ideas coming from? You're always kind of like the safety guy. So for me, it was very much kind of like a Hail Mary thing. But I'm happy I did it. And that's why I kind of ask everyone always, like, what was the spark that ignited it all for you?
My spark?
Yeah.
To be honest, I remember when I was a really little child. Like, I was so young that I was sleeping in the garden of my parents' house in a tent, and for me that was an adventure. Almost that age, like first grade or something, like the first few years in school, right?
Yeah.
And the only thing we were to talk about, me and my best friends, were like some people we idolized, like musicians, stars, anything like that. And we were always kind of like, how do they feel? How do they do that? How did they get there? So that started really early. And I always had an interest in personal development, like from an early age on. I didn't know what it was, but it was interesting to me, right? So in school, there was nothing that interested me because actually I was never really stupid, you know what I'm saying? So I realized that I can learn things quite quick, but it was, I don't know, somebody said it was too easy for me. I think I was just a kid and I wasn't interested in doing that at that point. But once I found something that caught my interest, once I wanted something, once I said, okay, this is it, like with the bodybuilding, I went all in and I was training 2 times a day and weighing my food and writing down my protein intake. And I went into that like a real science, right? And I was always good in meeting people. So even back then in the gym, when I was like 14 years old, I got to know the owner. I got to know all the important people there, right? And I kind of like had my own crowd. And then I got fascinated with America and this whole idea of California. And then again, I kind of like let life take over, and whatever, wherever it takes me, I was always able to find a way to get there. And somebody, I once said, I probably would have become the world's greatest bullshit artist if I wouldn't have done what I've done. You know what I'm saying? Because exactly all the same thing with the Hollywood agent and stuff. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I really didn't know. But I did it anyways, and I got to meet those people. And I'm not saying I was doing really good at it, I was okay, and everybody was impressed by it. But it was just more like an ego thing, right?
Yeah.
I like to go to the movies and go to the Hollywood parties and stuff. Like, that's the reason why I did it, Not because I had a real interest in the film industry. But with the relationship thing, and that was the spark, because my childhood wasn't that great. There's a reason why I moved out from home when I was 14 years old. And I guess that was the spark that I could see that this is something that really can help people, and also to have an effect on people, like with their lives, with their families, with the whole thing. That really had a lot of input.
Yeah, of course. Do you sometimes think and contrast where LA was back then and where it is right now?
Yes.
What do you think of how, because I look at LA right now and I lived there in 2013, 14-ish. And back then it was kind of already on the decline. Homeless people everywhere. Like, I remember I left a nightclub once and there was like police and like helicopters with the spotlight. And they're like, oh yeah, someone just got stabbed. Like right there. And for me as an Austrian, like, we don't have that in Austria. People don't just get stabbed in Austria,
Well, I did see a lot of stuff like that, shootings and things like that. They happen there. If you live there for a while, once, I once, I was driving my car and somebody like held a gun, through his car, through the window and stuff like that, because I cut him off at a light and stuff like that. Yeah, so that was one of the things when I came back to Austria at first. everything felt so small, so safe,
Yeah.
and so easy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That nothing was a problem anymore, because over there, you know, you really learn how to face your fears, you know,
Yeah.
and do things that are kind of like different. I would not want to live there anymore for many reasons, political reasons, and also for the way it kind of like went down. Back then was the greatest thing ever. I mean,
yeah.
you know.
It always changes, you know, like back then, LA was the big dream. Nowadays, there's other places where people want to go to, you know. I mean, look at a good example is Dubai.
Right.
20 years ago, Dubai was nothing. It was
Right.
literally a desert. Nowadays,
You like Dubai?
Nah. I've been there for the first time earlier this year. When was the last time we saw each other?
We saw each other.
It was maybe actually that last summer, I think.
I think so. Yes.
Some steak.
We
got
went for steak in Vienna.
Yeah,
I remember
for
that.
sure. I remember that. Yeah, I was in Dubai for the first time.
Well, actually, no. We saw each other after that one more time, but also in Vienna at the
course,
hotel.
Always.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was there, and I mean, it was kind of what I expected. Over the top, everybody tries to be the coolest, most baller kind of guy. But it's still nice. Like, it's one of these places where you're mostly spending time in the hotel and hotel complex. It's also artificial, right?
That's the word exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
I can go to a shopping center anywhere in the world and it looks
Exactly.
like Dubai.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
And the thing is, like, and then you go to places like Cyprus where it's the exact opposite.
Right.
It's like you don't, not yet, although it turns into this, where we are right now, actually, there's a huge hotel and villa complex
Right.
called Cap St. George's. It's like right there when you go there.
Right.
And that's kind of like, it becomes this curated experience again, where the beach is reshaped into, you know, looking nicer than it naturally is, and the hotel is there, and the bars and stuff like that. But what I, other than that, like about Cyprus is it's very natural. You can go to a random rock formation, and it's gorgeous, and it's beautiful. And it's not a tourist spot. It's not claimed by a hotel. It's just, you just go there. You take a walk.
It just
you check-
exists. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's what I like about Cyprus. It's much more natural. It's also what I like about places in Austria. You just go there and it's just gorgeous, and there's no hotel, no nothing, right? So that was kind of like the thing about Dubai. But you know, it's cool to be there every now and then. It kind of also, what I really liked is like the whole luxury that you can get there. It's kind of inspiring, and you see people there. You know, sometimes you think, "Oh, I'm a baller. Look at me. I got my new Rolex or whatever." Or we made so and so much money last month. And then you go there and you're nothing. You're peanuts. You know, oh, you made a 200K profit. You think you're the shit. You are nothing. This guy wears a watch that, you know, the watch that this guy is wearing over there, smoking the shisha in the corner, that watch is worth more than the profit you made in the last 3 years. You know, so that is kind of cool. And I've always had this as in terms of envy. I think there's so many people out there that get envious, especially with social media, right? And they're like, oh, you have more than them, so they hate on you, and so on and so forth. They try to dethrone you or whatever. But I've always tried to reframe it as like, oh, cool, well, if this guy can do it, or that girl can make more money than me, so why can't I? I've always seen it kind of as an inspiration. That's why if I ever do go to Dubai, I'm not hating on the place as much. I'm just more like, cool. Like, it shows me what's possible. These people are also just the same kind of people as me, so let's go make some more money. Let's go help a bunch more people and build something awesome.
Well, a lot of people, they go there for taxes and stuff. But as you
Also,
said
yeah.
before, what I don't like about is everything is fake. You know what I'm saying? I don't want like a fake sea thing with palms and bullshit. I don't get that. I don't think that's. And then you got this every building has to be taller than the other one, but it's still not New York. You know what I'm saying? It's like they can do whatever, but no, you know. But I've been there 2 times, and yeah, I had a good time there. But I would never. I mean, this is one of the places I would never live. I mean, I couldn't do it.
So you just live in Austria now?
Yes.
And you bought this crazy truck. What is it? A Defender?
Yes, a Land Rover. Yes.
And you made, and the way I have it in my memory, it's like you made some modifications, so it's basically ready for the apocalypse.
That's what it's for.
Does it have a winch?
We're still waiting for the apocalypse to happen. So finally we can go be zombie killers or something like that.
I mean, here's the crazy thing.
Of course, it has a wrench.
Of course.
Sure. If I have to get somebody out of a difficult relationship, I got my wrench.
Exactly. Yeah, and because like this whole like 2020 COVID stuff, you were full on in there because you were in Austria.
Yes.
And I was in Ukraine back then. And Ukraine, is Eastern European. Yeah, maybe.
They don't care that much.
Maybe, like that. So you go there and, officially they had lockdowns and everything. But of course you call the restaurant like, yeah, it's open. You just come in back door, So you come into the back door.
Right.
And you think like you're the only one. No. Restaurant
it's full.
Completely full.
Packed.
They just had the windows barricaded, so you couldn't see from the outside. It's open, but you go in there and it's just normal life. And I remember this one time we were at some relatively famous restaurant, and it was officially full on lockdown. That was at the height of the lockdown. And I'm sitting there with a bunch of friends of mine, some of my team member, and I'm just, you know me. I'm like you. I rant about a crazy story. I tell some story. And then in the periphery, I see the door opening, like busting open, and freaking SWAT coming in, like a special unit, special ops, Ukrainian special forces with with the full on, the terror, the counterterrorism masks, the MP guns and stuff like that, and the boots, like the full police gear,
Right.
And they're coming in, but I was so in the zone. I'm like, I'm gonna finish my story, man. So they go in, they yell around and like, hey, everybody has to go. I mean, they weren't like assaulting or anything. They were like, hey guys, this is closed. The party is over. It's locked down. Get out of here. AKA the owner didn't pay the owner didn't pay the corruption money to us early enough, so we're gonna close this thing down. That's how probably it works. And I remember then, they go from table to table, but I'm still in the middle of my story. And then one of these SWAT guys with, he didn't point the gun. He had the gun in his hand, like a submachine gun or whatever. And he just comes up and he says something in Russian, and I'm like, no, English. And I keep talking the story. And he's like, stop, you have to go. And I'm like, yeah, let me finish my story real quick. And he just says, okay. And I think he was so much in my frame that he couldn't handle it. He was like, oh, well, I guess I'll wait here. So he stood just there waiting for my story to finish. Yeah. But anyways, like that was Ukraine. We were throwing parties at, like, I would rent a big mansion with a big pool. I was throwing parties out for my 30th birthday and all that. And all my friends from Austria, they're like, wait a minute, is this an old story from like 2 years ago? I'm like, no, what? It's right now. So the contrast was very, very crazy because in Austria it was full on lockdown and with the mask and all that jazz and all this crazy stuff. And you were in there and you were like, I'm gonna buy a Jeep. I'm gonna get ready for the apocalypse.
Well, I didn't get the Jeep for the COVID or for the but for the apocalypse. I like stuff like that.
Yeah.
I want to have a car where I sit higher and where I feel safe, and
like it,
I just like
100%.
I always love that kind of car.
Yeah. Also, doesn't the Jeep run even? It runs mostly analog. It doesn't have a lot of electronics inside.
There's almost no electronics.
That's the key because if there's like an EMP or a sun flare or some stuff like, you with your little Tesla, all nice that it's all electronic, but all it takes is like one freaking EMP or like, how they call these like sun flares? Mm-hmm. That like a sun flare could just wipe out the entire electricity grid, and then your car doesn't work anymore. But if you have an analog car, you still just start it because it's just the ignition turns on the engine and off you go. By the way, maybe we want to fix the lighting here. I got a little bit of sun in the thing, but we can keep rolling at the same time. So you still want to live full on in Austria, or you have plans of moving somewhere? What's your plan? What are you doing?
Well, to be honest, I'm thinking about having like a 2 places residency thing going on, and I'm looking for different places. Dubai is not gonna be it. We already cleared that up.
So you've tested it, or you were like, nah?
Nah, that was never in the question. I would never do that. But I was actually looking Cyprus, and Malta is also another option and stuff. I want to be someplace, where there's the sea and where it's lots of nature and stuff like that, and have like a 2 residence kind of thing.
I can really I keep saying this to everyone. Like, the more I'm here, the more I love it here. Cyprus is so good for at least the stage that I'm at in my life right now. I don't want much distractions. I don't really want to live in a city. The noise, I'm so sensitive towards noise, traffic noise nowadays. I just want my peace. I just want it to be quiet. I love getting up in the morning. First thing is I take a walk in the sunshine. I get my first 4,000 or 5,000 steps in just in sunshine, before the sun gets too aggressive. I get my vitamin D, and then I do some stretching. Then I put my morning steak in the pan. I listen to something.
You'll have a morning steak?
Yeah, every day. I've eaten steak every single day since April 2022. Every single day, 2 to 3 steaks. So calculate 365 days. Times 3 to 4 steaks. I've eaten over 1,000 steaks in the last.
The cows are gonna come to hound you.
Yeah. And I have a great butcher here. He already knows me. He's like, "Hey man, Max, what's up? Come in here, my friend. What do you need today?" Like full on. I always get the best fillet, and I always go there, and I'm like, "Oh, you guys have local fillet?" And they're like, "Yeah," and they have like the full piece there, And he's like, "How much you want?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, everything."
So how do you do your steak? You do it on the griller or you do it in the pan?
So first of all, I travel with my own pan.
Yes.
I have my own ceramic pan.
Okay.
Because most, every time when you stay in a villa or in an Airbnb, it's hit or miss. Either they have a good pan or not. Usually they don't have a good pan. And if you've ever tried to cook a damn steak in a pot,
it won't work.
And you're like, get out of here. So I'm like, a pan doesn't weigh too much, weighs 2-3 kilos. Doesn't take much space because it's just a flat thing. I don't have a iron. I have a ceramic because iron is very heavy.
Yes, you gotta have your travel luggage full with one pan.
Exactly. So I have my ceramic pan.
Have you ever tried with the thermostat? Have you ever tried that?
No.
Well, you
I
should
don't
do
need
that.
to. I mean, I've made over 1,000 steaks in the last 365 days.
I tell you, if you put it on the grill, and you use it with the thermos thing.
So you put you mean where you put the thermostat inside to make sure that it has a good temperature?
You need a huge steak, right? You need a big one, right?
Okay.
And then you put it on the grill, each side 2 minutes, and then you put the thing in there, and you wait till it's like 53 degrees exactly,
Nice.
middle,
Nice.
and it'll be perfect.
Oh man, we gotta.
I learned that actually this summer.
Yeah.
That was my big takeaway for this summer: how to make the perfect steak.
I love it, man. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I know exactly how to make mine, at least in my pan. And it's great. I'm eating this every single day. So great breakfast, plus 5 to 6 eggs.
I remembered you being a vegetarian when we met first.
Yeah, 2009 to 2022. Vegetarian, 12, 13 years.
And you gave it up because of the workout, or what was the reason?
So...
Or you like steak so much?
So first of all, the first thing that I noticed was that I plateaued at the gym.
Yeah.
I looked at pictures from like 4 or 5 years earlier, and I'm like, I haven't changed. Why the hell am I going to the gym 3, 4, 5 times a week if I'm not getting any gains from that? Plus, I didn't feel good. I felt very tired. I felt very prone to anxiety and stress.
Really?
Yes. I felt like mentally I was much less quote-unquote stable. I wasn't mentally unstable, but things would piss me off faster.
Really?
I would get scared faster. I would have negative thoughts faster. Like basically all the symptoms of low testosterone, as I found out later, right?
Mm-hmm.
And funny enough, and here's the crazy part, not to get like, this is not the conspiracy freaking podcast here, but here's what actually happened. So because I was vegetarian, I still did blood tests relatively frequently.
Yeah.
But mostly to check, vitamin D, vitamin B, zinc, iron, and so on and so forth. And it was always okay. My testosterone specifically was in the bottom third, but still in the normal range. Now, here's the crazy thing. I didn't even know that, but it's actually true. You can look that up. What they've done is, over the years, they've adjusted the normal range of testosterone downwards, which means 10 years ago, I would have been outside of the normal range with my testosterone.
So now they lowered it so that it's normal.
They're just lowering the standards. Like, oh yeah, you got low testosterone, but it's still the normal range.
Sometimes they up the standards so they can sell you some other thing,
exactly. Right? But anyways, they lowered it, and I was like, well, I'm in the lower range, but that's fine, right? And doctor even said, yeah, can happen, la-di-da. And as I found out later, that was the very source of me not feeling so good. I was just schlepping myself to the gym, just sweating and breathing, and just everything was hard. And you know how they say testosterone is the hormone that makes hard work feel good?
Yeah.
And it's exactly what I didn't have. Everything felt hard, no matter what I did. And because I have such crazy amounts of discipline and always had, I just plowed through, right? And just, the worse my testosterone got, the more discipline I had to build to just do the normal things in my life. But because I have a lot of discipline, I was still able to function above average compared to the average person. But then again, like my problem was like, I'm like, why am I going to the gym? I don't see any changes. I'm constantly struggling with not getting good results at the gym, but also cravings. A lot of cravings. Eating and sticking to a diet was really hard for me. Like I could do it for 2-3 days and then binging. 2-3 days binging. 2-3 days binging. And it was always this yo-yo. Like I either binged like crazy or I fasted for 24 hours just to get back on track and all that stuff. And then on top of that, you know, all the anxiety and stress and all that was really getting to me. And then at that same time, I was checking out my now mentor, Niki Brar. I had him on the podcast last time as well. And he's all about, I mean, he's a little bit extreme, and, you know, some of it is kind of marketing, exaggeration, but he has the heart on the right spot, and he's extremely smart at what he does, and he's extremely cool and smart guy. So I got to say this too. But, you know, on his Instagram, he's always like, yeah, if you're vegan or vegetarian, it's really bad for everything, basically. Don't do it. I'm cool with a son like this, actually. I'm fine. Yeah. And he kind of wrote about, hey, listen, man, you got to kind of have meat in your diet, you know. And at the same time, I was in Lapland in the Arctic Circle in the north of Finland with my girlfriend, and that's kind of brewing in my brain, this whole like, maybe I should start eating meat again, you know, maybe. And a big reason why I was more okay with that idea was because I had the finances to actually say, well, I don't have to buy it at the supermarket. I can buy my meat directly from the farmer. And one of the big reasons why I didn't want to eat meat in the first place was because I didn't want to be part of an industry where I said, you know, they bring up the cattle, they never see the sunlight, and then they just get slaughtered. So that was one of the big things for me. So I'm in Lapland, and my girlfriend's dad has a piece of reindeer meat, dried reindeer meat, and, you know, just typical dad, you know, he sits on the couch watching TV and he cuts off a slice, eats it like a chewing gum, cuts off some more, eats it like a gum. You know, for him it was just a snack. And he said, hey, Max, you want to try some? I know you're vegetarian, but do you want to try some? And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, well, you know, I bought it straight from the reindeer farm, so it's not processed or anything. And he's like, it's literally just dried meat. There's nothing else, no added, no nothing. And then I Google it. I'm like, macros 100 grams reindeer meat, and I'm like, oh my god, this is just pure it's pure protein and fat. And for me as a vegetarian, all I knew was cottage cheese, low fat quark, like all this stuff, you know. I always had to get like the weird stuff, and here I just
that's the hard part about it.
Exactly.
That
and
you don't know what to eat, and if you have if it's like a time thing,
yeah,
then you're better off with cooking meat and stuff like that.
And here I just had a piece of pure protein, just no chemicals, no downsides, no nothing. And I'm like, that's kind of something I was always wishing for as I was a vegetarian. Just give me pure protein. So I ate that, and it was delicious. And I'm like, oh shit, that's good. And then the next day, as it happened, we visited, I think, my girlfriend's aunt and uncle, and they were cooking moose. They were like, we bought moose meat from some hunter or something like that, like moose goulash or something like that. And I'm like, you know what? Tell them that I'm not a vegetarian anymore and that I will eat it. And they made it for me, and it was great. It was amazing, and it felt good, and it felt so light. And that is where I then also contacted Niki Brar, and I'm like, hey, I want to get into your coaching. I heard a lot of good things. Can you help me eat meat again? And he's like, sure. Boom, boom, boom. Sign me up. And then I started eating meat, and within the first month, my testosterone rose by 30%. So right after I started,
really?
So 1 month in, 30% increase of testosterone. 6 months later, I had it, I think, tripled. And then the last time I did results, I don't know the exact date where it was anymore, but the last time I did testosterone, I had 9x'd it. So I almost 10-folded my testosterone. I went from bottom third, just in the barely acceptable range, to above, like the range of like, this is minimum maximum. Mine was above the maximum. It was like literally off the charts. And funny enough is, instead
now you're biting cars that are passing by because of your...
I feel great.
Really?
So what happened was, usually I would come back from the gym and I would be drained. I would have to sit there on the couch with my laptop on. I couldn't move my arms properly. I could do mental work, but physically I was gone. And nowadays I come back from the gym and I hit PRs. I'm way stronger, way faster, and I'm like, I look myself in the mirror and I do shadow boxing because I still have all this energy. I feel amazing. I feel great. I feel, even when there's like a lot of stress, a lot of worry, I brush it off much quicker. It doesn't affect me emotionally as much. I'm just like, yeah, whatever, we'll handle it. So that's beautiful. And again, like the most important thing is that the meat that I do buy, I buy it from the butcher. I buy it from the farmer. In Austria, I know my farmer. His name's Alois. I literally walk into his house. I'm like, Alois, what's up? What do you got for me? He's like, oh, I got this Bayrit for you, you know, whatever Bayrit. Do you know what Bayrit is?
Bayrit of English? No,
I don't even know. Some sort of meat, you know. And then he's like, my wife made this liquor. You want to have the? And I'll give you the liquor as well. I don't drink, but you know. So it's all straight from the farmer. Or I go to the fisher place and I buy the fish from the lake. So it's beautiful. I have the best of everything.
So funny. There's like this. There was this one wave of everybody becoming a vegetarian and was really strong. And back then I went to India, right? And I also kind of like got into that.
Yes.
And stayed with it for quite some time. But for me, it was actually a convenience thing to like include meat again in my diet.
Yeah, of course.
And of course, I like the taste of it. You know, a nice beef tartare or something like that. I love it.
Man, too bad you're leaving tomorrow already. We could have otherwise grabbed some steaks somewhere.
But we'll find a way to grab steaks
life
again.
Finds a way, always.
But then now I heard this, Jordan Peterson, and he was talking. He's doing this carnivore diet,
That's right?
And he's eating only meat, nothing else. I cannot believe that this would be healthy. I don't understand it, but I've read it now so many times. I mean, to me, I guess I always go with things where I think have a good mix of things. You know what I'm saying? Everything that's too straight in one direction. Then some people had this fat diet, you know, where they're only eating fat and protein and totally into that and no carbohydrates and stuff. And I've tried many of those things to see what makes a difference and what works best. But from the workout and stuff, I'm absolutely sure that yes, I believe what you're saying. Leaving it totally out and having no meat at all and just living off beans and tofu, you're probably not gonna get that that power.
Although again, like
unless you have a great vegetarian cook that will, you know, I mean, I've seen this. Have you seen that film from that Arnold promoted?
The Game Changers?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right.
So a friend of mine was actually involved in the production of this, Misha Janets. He's gonna be on this podcast next week, I think. He, for example, is vegan and has been vegan and he's huge.
Right.
He's got incredible gains. He's a natural bodybuilder, won a couple pro competitions and all that. So for him, it works. So here's my theory. And again, I have to have a theory because I don't know anything and I'm not an expert. But my theory is because our biology of digestion is so complex with all the cultures, the bacteria, the gut bacteria and all that, it's so complex, the microbiome, that it's very different for everyone. So while it definitely works for my friend Misha, who is a vegan for many years and he's crushing it, might not work for other people. While it did work for me for over 10 years, because don't get me wrong, I felt amazing the first couple of years and then it only started declining.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I felt great when I started.
So how long did you do that?
12, 13 years.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah,
I thought it was like a thing that you did for I don't know, a year or two.
I was 19 when I started.
So that's why you went back to the guy and said, help me eat meat again. Because when you said that before, I was like, well, I can help you eat meat again. Just put some on the table and just go ahead and do it.
No, I started when I was 19. And at first, I had exactly the same symptoms that I had when I started eating meat again, which was surge of energy, feeling great, and all that, because in 2009, there wasn't a lot of vegetarian or, God bless, even vegan fast food. There was none. I mean, like vegan burgers, that was not a thing in 2009. You could, the only fast food you could get was regular burgers, pizza with meat on it, kebab, and all that stuff. So naturally, when I stopped eating meat, I stopped eating all the bullshit. So I got really healthy. I felt much better, had much more energy. And then probably, the thing is the tip, where the scale tipped, it happened so slow that I didn't even notice it. Because when I say I started being vegetarian and I felt great, but at the end I felt like shit, I didn't even notice it. It's at
Gradually.
some point after whatever 5, 6, 7 years, it must have started tipping, and then it just got down slower and slower. So yeah, like I said, it worked great for me until it didn't anymore.
I find it amazing what you said about 10xing your testosterone. But because that I think is interesting that you saw that, just from changing that that I find interesting.
And it's amazing because I work harder, I work more, I work better, I sleep less. It's just like the money that I'm making from it. Like if you could actually denote a denominator, like a number to it, I make much more just because I changed my diet.
That's interesting.
So,
There's this crazy, I think Austrian. She's like what is she called? The militant vegetarian, right?
The militant vegan. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
If she hears you, she'll she'll be on to you.
Yeah. It's funny.
It almost sounds like a Gordon Ramsay podcast now. We're just talking about food, right?
Gordon Ramsay. Let's bring him on. But that's the thing. It's like to wrap this topic up. What I can proudly say, even while I was a vegetarian, I never talked badly about meat eaters. I never became one of those guys,
Militant,
like, yeah. Like I would be at a restaurant with my friend that wasn't a vegetarian. He would eat steak. I'm like, bro, enjoy your freaking steak, man. I was never, you shouldn't eat it. I was never like that. And proudly enough, when I noticed, hey, this meat eating is working better than the thing I did for 13 damn years, I also was like, okay, I'm eating meat now again. There was no ego involved. There was just like pure, like, whatever frickin' works better. I don't have a problem with changing my mind. And I think that's a big problem with a lot of other people, that they're so married to their ideas, they have their identity connected so much to their ideas that once they are confronted with facts, hey, this is better than what you're doing right now, they can't make that switch. And now they actually suffer, their results suffer. So when I was confronted with reality of like, hey, eating meat is better for you, I'm like, to hell, and I'll just freaking eat meat. I don't give a shit.
Well,
Works
the more
better.
you invested in something, the harder it is to pull back from it. And it's one part of intelligence, that most people, they think that they are doing things different, but if you're looking over the years, they always did the same thing and producing the same results. So it's actually kind of a good step, to, if you want to get happy, you have to change a lot of things, be ready to start new, be ready to, put that idea off the table and say, let's start fresh. So that's a great thing, I think, in anything. But especially with food, people are really invested in their idea and they have like a whole, how it has to be done, and it's only this is the right way. And I've known this since I'm like in the bodybuilding stuff, because they're, it's all about that. Everybody has their own religion and stuff like that.
And that's also why most people suck at what they do, why they don't make enough money and all that, because they have preconceived ideas of what it should be, and they resist to what is. And I think that's the problem. And just earlier, someone asked me on my Instagram, they were like, what's the biggest lesson that you learned in the last 2 years for business specifically? And I thought about it. You know what my biggest freaking lesson was? That was my answer, that I still suck. Like, it doesn't matter. Even though I'm making multiple 7 figures a year, I still suck. And that's fucking cool, because now I can have an open heart, an open mind, and say, hey, teach me this. Hey, I want to learn that. People always think with like ego is like you just overcome it once and then it's done, right? When you're getting started,
it always stays with you.
It always stays with you. It's almost like an onion. There's like you plow through one layer of ego and you think, oh, now I learned all the new things. I'm making my first 10K a month. Great, right? What you don't know is that there's now a new layer of ego around you, and now you think you know everything, right? And that keeps you from making 20, 30, 40, 50K a month. And now you have to drop that ego even more, but that's a different ego and it's harder to drop that. So now you have to drop that, and then you're like, oh, cool, well, now I'm making 50K a month. Look at me, I'm the great. Maybe I don't know anything about that either. So you constantly have to basically tell yourself that you don't know anything and that you're full of shit. And again, like every time I talk to a regular person about this, they're like, oh, you're just talking down on yourself. Why would you do that? That has nothing to do with talking down on myself. It's a beautiful thing that you don't know shit. Like, I don't need to tell myself that I'm great and that I'm amazing in order to love myself. I can totally say, you know what? I love me. I'm a great guy and I'm doing a lot of things right and I'm doing some things wrong, but that's okay. But at the same time, I need to admit that I don't know anything,
right,
and that's fine.
This thing about being good enough or I'm not enough, that's a big thing for a lot of people. How do I feel enough? Yeah, well, you have to be okay to be shit at something and still be enough because you can learn it, right?
Exactly.
And that probably is one thing that when you when you're able to start at nothing, say, well, I don't know anything about it, but it's okay to not know anything about it, and I can learn it, and I can start from fresh. That's probably a great life concept in order to evolve.
100%.
And every time I thought in my life that I know something, I got shown I don't know shit. It's always like that, and you know much less about anything than you think you know. That's another thing. When you feel I own this now, I'm entitled to that. You can only watch how long it takes till somebody like swipes you away, and teaches you some stuff. It's always like that.
Here's a question I would love to ask you. You've been through significantly more ups and downs that I have, simply because you're a more experienced person and you have been on this earth for much longer than me. And what I've always thought is this idea of like, just what we said now, this idea of admitting that you don't know nothing, and that's okay.
Stay humble.
Staying humble is an idea that gets harder and harder the older you get, right? There's this whole saying, you don't teach an old horse new tricks. And I notice it with people, like my dad, he's 60 now. And I'm getting him to the gym. He's working out 2-3 times a week, which is great. But at the same time, he's not going to change his diet anymore. He's fat. Mm-hmm. And that's, it's not ideal, but no chance in hell this guy is going to quit chocolate. No chance in hell he's going to quit his ice cream. I can get him to the gym, so at least he gets bone density and he gets some resistance work, but no way in hell he's going to change because he's just too old for this whole admitting that you don't know anything. But then I look at you, and you're not 60, but you're also getting there. So am I, right? And
we're all getting there.
You look fucking fantastic for your age, gotta say. But then I see you, and you're also working now with a good friend of mine, Florian, for example. And we've talked about this earlier before the podcast, how you said, he's kicking your ass a little bit, and you're learning a lot of things anew with him. Is it harder for you the older you get to admit that you don't know something? Is it harder for you to learn new things? Is it easier? Is it the same? What do you do to ensure that you can still do it?
Well, first of all, when I was a kid, I was really trusting myself in certain things that nobody else would have trusted themselves in. I tried things where I'm saying, how did I do this, right? Like, how did I do this? And there is something to youth, where you don't know what can go wrong, and therefore you just try it and things will happen. Yeah? Like in anything in business, like once you know if something doesn't work, you certainly don't try certain things. Like, for example, I had a chain of sports casinos, kind of like thing, betting casinos in Germany. We had 350 of them.
Damn.
Yeah. I built that after I came back from America a few years later, and I got into this whole. I got in the vending machine business, and then from there I got into the gaming industry. And a friend of mine, we built that, right? And in the beginning, I did not know how hard this will be, how many problems are going to happen, and so therefore I just tried things, and things that just happened because I did not know they won't work. Like, how did you go to America and meet Arnold? Well, because I didn't think that it was difficult. I was just, a kid and didn't know what can go wrong. So that's one thing that's great about youth. You don't know what can go wrong sometimes, and you have this uninformed optimism about things, right? Same with the coaching business. If I would have known how many hours I'm gonna sit there, how many thousands. I've done now by about we figured out it's somewhere between 25 and 30,000 hours that I spent with people coaching, seriously.
Wow.
Okay? That's a lot of time. I wrote, so many articles, so many pieces of content over the time. You're doing the same thing, right? But if I would have known how much work this is gonna be, of all the hard times that's gonna happen, about all the stuff that is involved, I probably would have, ran away crying right before I'm doing it. But once you're into it, and that's funny thing is, you find out you have lots more energy than you thought you're going to have, right? It's like I talked to this guy from, I think is it Joe, the guy from the Kelly family. He's like an extreme sports guy, right?
Oh,
he
no
does
shit.
this, yeah. The one, what Joey Kelly, I think it is.
Yeah.
And I met him at a seminar.
Oh, no way.
And he does like this runs where they run like not a marathon, they run like 5 marathons, and then they swim and like all this, right?
Yeah.
And he said, at that point where you think there is no more left in you, you're at about 20%. Seriously.
I keep hearing that.
And I've seen that in my life when we talked about before the LA riots, right? When that happened, I mean, I was sitting there in the, I don't know, 15th or 20th floor, I don't know, remember, 10th floor actually, in this high riser, right, in Hollywood, and they were like burning buildings next to us, right? And I'm seriously, and the guard from the security building, he was scared because on the outside, there was like people trying to get into the building and stuff. I mean, those were crazy times. And if I talk about it now, that I was cooking out of one pot, right? Everything, right? Together with my girlfriend back then, and all the stuff I was able to do and overcome, sleeping in a car sometimes and doing stuff that is really crazy because, I never would have thought that I'm able to do it, but once you have to, you do it. And people get used to strangest situations. Like, for example, back then, we didn't have a TV except like the one we had. Yeah, it was really bad, and you had to put like a little hook, from the hanger, right, from the clothes, a metal hanger, and so we kind of like attached that to that TV, and it was black and white, and it was a small screen, and we were lying on the floor in the office, and we didn't have beds for a while. It was really, but I was still working in the office. I kind of like maintained a little bit of the business. Yeah. And at the same time, I had to live there in that time. And we got used to it. We were watching hours of TV on the TV where you did hardly see anything, And now people have like those huge screens and everything. People get used to anything. If you have to, you get used to anything. We have much more power than we think we have. And once you test that, and once you feel your strength, with that comes also this Selbstbewusstsein, confidence, right? Yeah. You have an obstacle, you have to face it. There's no other way. You'll do it and you'll survive it. And I've survived a million things by now, I think. I mean, there's people that had it much worse, but for me in business, all the stuff when I thought, oh, this is not gonna work out or this is not gonna go good, and somehow, I always overcame it. And so after a while, and that's a great thing about age, when you're older, you're like a little bit more relaxed. It's gonna work itself out. I know have done this before and stuff. So that's with age. That's one thing that happens that is easier. You can like lean a little bit more back.
Yeah, and kind of trust the process.
And trust the process more. That's one thing.
It's great that you said that. I feel that.
And you don't have that ego, I don't have that ego that I have to have the biggest house, the fanciest watch, the biggest car.
Although you do have a nice watch.
Yeah, but it's not. You see what I'm saying? This is not.
I know what you mean. 100%.
Totally unimportant. Yeah. It's totally unimportant. And if you have ever really, been in a bed. I mean, I got 4 kids, right? So if I imagine one of my kids had some trouble or something like that, none of that, none of luxury or something like that counts at all. I've been with people that are really, really, really rich, right? Like the last guy I called, he called me and we were on a Zoom call, right? And he's one of my clients, right? And so I'm looking at that screen and I'm like, what am I seeing here? And he was looking like it looked like he was in a high riser, like from the floor looking up. It was huge and everything was kind of like blue. Yeah. And I said, what am I seeing here? I've never seen a Zoom call like that. What is it I'm seeing? And I say, oh, I'm on my boat. And he like turned and he turned the camera and I'm seriously, there was the crew walking by and he had a helicopter landing place, right? The whole thing, right? But this whole huge millions of dollars, I don't know, how fancy it is. It's not big enough so that he and his wife, can spend time in the same room on that thing because they hate each other's guts, And I met people that are, they got 18 cars in their garage, everything. And then the girlfriend leaves him. And, you know, the only guy is left is his bodyguard, right? And he's sitting on the floor and crying his eyes out. And none of his fucking 60 watches and 15 cars and everything he has doesn't do anything for him at that point. I mean, I'd rather be rich and healthy than poor and sick, of course, right? If I have the choice. But to be honest, you know what means something? Experience. You know, using your youth to apply yourself and to learn something and to get and to harness your skills and get better in something. But this is what your life is. Your life is not something where you reach a certain goal and then you're happy. It doesn't happen. Everybody that reaches their goals, right? Either it's just like, let's say you have a goal, you want to make $1 million a month, right? Okay, well, once you have $1 million a month, all that's going to happen is it's going to be a little bit relaxing. You know, the stress is gonna stop. Nothing else is gonna happen. You know, you're not gonna eat better steaks. You're not gonna have more fun. Your friends are not gonna love you more because you have a big house. Nobody will love you more because you got a fancy watch. That's all bullshit. It's nice to have, but you have to see what it is. It is what it is, not more and no less. And once you realize that, I think then you can start enjoying life. And the other thing is, and when people reach their life goals, you know, when they're like, really, I've done this. Well, after that, horror vacui. You know, there's the big emptiness. What am I gonna do now? You know, this was it, right? So, I guess it's really about the journey. You know, it's really about the experience you have, and you cannot plan. I mean, I know that with marketing and all the stuff we do, of course, you need to plan certain things, right? I need to plan to come here and do this podcast with you. But if you want to make God laugh, tell him something about your plans. Because I could have never foreseen, when I was 14 years old, and my mother dropped the phone book, right? And on those yellow pages, there was like a silhouette of a bodybuilding couple, right? There was a guy, and I was a kid, and I was like, this is how I want to look, right? And back then I was really, really totally out of shape. And so that got me started. I would have never known that will get me into that gym, that I will meet this guy, that then get me to California, that I'll meet these people, that will happen, those things. How could I have ever planned on becoming a talent agent for a while? And I was the youngest talent agent ever. I mean, I wasn't great at it. I made a lot of bullshit also there, funny stories, right? For example, once I asked Tim Robbins, like Academy Award winner, right? And I was on Sunset Boulevard in front of the Comedy Store, and there was this guy standing, and I saw a movie, and there was a pre-screening, like before it comes out in the movies, and I like knew that guy. And back then, you know, it's not like everybody knows all the actors, right?
I'm googling who Tim Robbins
is. Tim
is.
Robbins, you can Google him.
Right.
And I met this guy, right? And I chat him up, and I'm like, "Hey, I've seen
Shawshank Redemption."
Yeah, exactly, yeah. This guy, and I'm standing there in front of the Comedy Store and see the guy, and I recognize him from that film I saw, but I didn't know that it was, you know, this guy, right?
Yeah.
So I walk up to him, you know, and I mean that's overconfident, and I'm like, yes, I'm a Hollywood agent, and I saw you in that movie. You did a pretty great job, you know. Maybe you need some representation, right? And he's like, well, I already got representation. I'm like, oh, who are you with? You know, like chatting shop, right? Yeah, I know my stuff, right? And he's like, I'm with CA Artists, and they got like Tom Cruise and everybody, right? And what's your name? I'm Tim Robbins, you know, stuff like that. I did, you know, I did not know what I was doing, you know, but I enjoyed the ride. It was fun, stuff like that. So where was I? Yeah, that was a funny story. So anyways, so those are the great things in life, you know, when you have experience and fun experience and you meet people, it's not about reaching your goals. I'm sorry. You know, it's nice. If you say, oh, I'm gonna do this thing, and of course you have to have that. When you work out, you have a plan. You say, I'm gonna this many reps, I'm gonna do it this many times. Of course, that's helpful. But if you don't enjoy the process, it's worth nothing.
Yeah.
And
Amen.
for a long time in my life, like the first 40 years or so, I did not much enjoy the process. I was looking too much for the results.
Yeah.
So if I would like start something now new, like if I would be an entrepreneur out there and or somebody, you know, that wants to do stuff like the stuff you do and things like that, I would recommend to all those people. I mean, to you, I don't have to recommend it because you're already doing it. Enjoy your life.
Yeah.
Enjoy your life, you know, enjoy every moment of it, and don't beat yourself up that there is somebody out there that has 1 million followers or something else, because it doesn't make a difference. Nobody will love you more because you have 1 million followers anywhere. It doesn't make a difference.
I can attest to that, man. And it's beautiful to hear you say that, because you've lived it. You know, you're not just someone who makes shit up, but you actually lived that, and you've achieved so much in your life, and at the same time you're still a humble guy, you know, and it's always fun to just eat steak with you. And there's two cool points that I want to add to what you said. It's not even an adding, it's just an emphasis. The first thing is, I used to say, I still say it, there's only one thing that is worse than achieving your dreams. Sorry, I butchered my own. There's only one thing that's worse than not achieving your dreams, and that is achieving your dreams and noticing that nothing actually has changed. And nobody believes me when I say money and girls and all that stuff doesn't bring you happiness.
Nobody believes you that. Nobody believes you.
Only the people who do have it. They're like, yep, I agree. So what I always say is, like, I'm not even here trying to convince people that money and girls and whatever it is does bring you happiness. I always try to say, go do it. I want you to make all the money. I want you to have the greatest dating life in your life, because then you can believe me. So go make all the money in the world. Also, because even if it doesn't bring you happiness, it brings you security, it brings you safety, you grow mentally, you grow with your character. It's all great side effects. But if you seek happiness through that, it's not going to come. It's not going to come. It's only going to come if you, like you said, enjoy the process doing it. And it was exactly the same when I was an unpaid assistant, traveling also to the States. I was the brokest I have ever been. I had no money. I couldn't even put proper shoes on my feet, because the shoes I had holes in them. Couldn't afford other shoes. One of the tricks on how I survived was, I went to the grocery store in LA, and they just started having these automatic cashier machines.
Were you eating inside the grocery store? Did you do that?
That's a good idea.
I did that. I did that. Yeah.
You know, I did the 2012, 2013 equivalent of that, which is they just had these checkout machines.
Right.
It's not a person, but like a beep machine, you know? So I go there, and for fruit, you couldn't scan fruit. You had to type on the touch screen bananas, all right? And then it asks, how many bananas are you buying? And I had a whole slew of bananas, and I was like, yeah, 2, you know, but I bought 24. So I was like, cool, 2 bananas, here you go, $2 or whatever. Right? So for me, it wasn't even stealing, because I still paid for some of the bananas. So that's how I did it. But you know what? It was one of the happiest times of my whole fucking life, because I was on the path of doing the thing I wanted to do, because I enjoyed the process. I was so broke. I was malnutritioned. I was constantly sick, but I was learning every day. I was getting better every day. I knew I was building something. I felt that there was something that was building up. And at any point of that journey, I could have told myself, even if I had to go home now and everything's over, I'm fucking happy. Like, and funny enough, my plan B was always, hey, if this doesn't work out, I can always go back to Austria and sign up for the army. I would still make my 4 or 5K a month, you know, being sent down to Kosovo and just protecting some building there or something like that. Yeah, my plan B was always like, army always going to take me. I got good stats. They're going to like me. It's fine. So that was always my plan B. But I was always happy that I was there. And the second quote that I want to share with you is actually a quote by my mentor, RSD Tyler. That's what he's known as. Also, Owen Cook is his actual name. And I just started watching his videos again. And
really?
And his videos are so deep now. Oh my God.
Yeah, he evolved.
It's so crazy. And, you know, he gets much less views than before because the YouTube landscape has changed. Nobody watches 3-hour rant videos anymore, except for guys like me, I guess. And I'm like, I wonder what he's up to, you know? And
and he can't be as aggressive as he was.
Exactly.
You know, they changed everything.
Exactly.
And,
so I'm watching his videos and I'm like, holy shit, that stuff is so good. He's at such a high level where most people don't even know what he's talking about anymore. But without proliferating myself here, but like at my stage, I can resonate with it. I've gone through so much shit in my life, and I've done so many things that I'm like, that's exactly the kind of depth in content that I at my stage need. All the other stuff of just like regular personal development, like it's so surface level for me at my level, where I've been through so much shit. It's just, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't tingle me anymore. But like watching Owen's content now, I'm like, holy fuck. It blows my mind now just as much as his old content blew my mind when I was freaking 19, 20.
You evolved.
So crazy. And the public speaking that he does is off the fucking charts. It's insane. And it's also similar to the stuff that you've just told me. I'm like, this is so good. 90% of the people listening to the rant that you've just done, they're like, yeah, whatever. You know, they'll get like 5% from it. There's only a small fraction of people who've been through enough to really resonate with what you've said earlier. And that's great. Anyways, and this quote by Tyler that really, really resonated with me, he said in one of his videos, when you get validation and power, it allows you to get lazy on being present to the moment. And that becomes dangerous. And it's so freaking true. The more you achieve in the material world, which means the more money you make, the more friends you got, you know, the more crazy of a dating life you have, the more the more lazy you become with this presence to the moment. Because when are you really forced to be present to the moment? When things are shit.
Pain.
When you're in pain. When you're coming home and the business isn't running well, and
pain.
Your girlfriend wants to break up with you, and your parents are just fighting, whatever the fuck.
Well, actually, then you have to kind of like wake up, get present to the moment.
Exactly.
And then
you have to.
Right.
You're being forced. You're like, okay, your fucking mind is going like crazy right now. You want to just jump off a cliff. You need to be present, and you need to enjoy every single moment that you have.
Well,
but when you're crushing it, when you're in a restaurant and you got the millions and the girls, you're like, well, present at the moment, fuck this, I'm balling. You become lazy with it, and that's where it gets dangerous.
My observation is, you know, we have people with deep troubles. Like I've got a girl right now. She was in a clan in Germany, right? And she was a cult, right? And she was they were holding her in cages, like from
Jesus.
a small, like really bad stuff. I got people with like, you know, really bad cancer diagnosis and stuff like that. And the funny thing is, people, when they're in the worst of pain, they change the fastest because they have to, you know? And the other people that are living the good life, you know, they can be, you know, really stupid about they don't see what's going on in their life because they're like by all the bling bling and everything that they can look away, right? And so, for example, if something happens to you where that really crushes you and stuff like that, then you start to become not only present to the moment, but I think the best takeaway I can give to people, having done it myself wrong many times, most important, be thankful. Be thankful. This is one thing I see in you. You know, you're a person. Whatever you do, you always give back to the people around you, like the way you treat your staff, the way you treat people in general, the way you do things. I was not able to be that good at that at your age, you know. But people that, because if you cannot be thankful for this moment, if you're sitting here and you're saying, well, you know, the house should be a little bit higher and the pool should be a little bit larger and the girlfriend should have a little bit of smaller ass and a little bit bigger tits and stuff like that. If you're into that, you're gonna never be thankful. This will never happen. Once you have more, you'll find something else. This never stops. So that's probably the most important thing, you know. Start to be happy with where you are right now. Out of that, and do something out of service. Like when I started having people work for me, I had the idea that they work for me, and I'm like, you know, telling them, oh, you do this and you do that, and then I'm like sitting here in my throne and everything is gonna work out. I mean, I'm over exaggerating, but a little bit like that. Once you get into the idea of servicing those people, like being there for them, being there for other people, being there for your family, being there for your fans, being there for that is something that really makes you happy inside. When other people profit from what you do. And at this stage of my life, this is probably the one thing that still gives me great pleasure. You know, that is a great thing. So to be thankful, to give back to others, and to really enjoy the process. That's probably the most important thing that I've learned from making a lot of mistakes in that area.
Damn.
You know? Definitely.
You know, when I was at my latest ayahuasca ceremony was a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
1 month ago?
Yeah. Well, it was in Ibiza. It was an entrepreneur retreat. And
Okay.
So it was everybody there paid at least $10K. It was a really, really, premium event. They had shamans there from the Amazon. Crazy stuff. And it was specifically designed to help entrepreneurs. It was about connecting spirituality with the money making world, so to speak. And on the third day, it was a week-long retreat, and you did 3 ceremonies. And on the third ceremony, funny enough, it was almost like all the lessons that I've learned the first 2 ceremonies came together. It's like watching a trilogy movie, like everything gets resolved in the third one. And the craziest epiphany I had in the third ceremony. I was lying outside. I was lying on my back, just like staring up to the stars because it was night, and I was kind of like a little bit away from the ceremony space because you're in this like big ceremony space. There are musicians. They're playing music and stuff like that because it's like the shamans were they're a singing tribe from the Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So they had guitars there. They were singing whatever their tribal songs they have. And I was like, I kind of want to be by myself, and I left that space. I was right in front of it, and I was just looking up at the stars and just relaxing, just being in the moment. And then the crazy thing is, these epiphanies that you're getting, you're thinking them, they are in your voice, but they're not coming from you. So it's almost like someone tells you that in your own voice, and you're like just out of nowhere. And as I'm lying there, I hear myself thinking, hey Max, do you want to know the true meaning of leadership? And in my head, I'm like, true meaning of leadership? Yeah. I want to know that. Yeah, might as well, And then my thought was, the true meaning of leadership is to serve people.
Mm.
You serve the people in your company, your clients, your followers, your girlfriend, your family, your loved ones. You serve them so much that when you need them to, they carry you.
Mm.
And I was somehow aware of that before already, of course, but having heard it that articulate in my own voice, it completely blew my mind. And I instantly wrote it down. You're not supposed to write things down. They say, usually like just let the whole ceremony unfold. But I was like, I need to write this down. The true meaning of leadership is to serve people. And it's exactly what you just said, where you said the biggest fulfillment you're getting is the servitude, is by being there for the people around you. And it's so crazy that you said the same thing that I had an epiphany about. And I think that's part of it too,
But for me, this was never like I read this in a book and this, to be honest, I was not, nobody is like by default thankful. We're not thankful. People are not thankful because the ego always wants more pleasure, more, different stuff, more something, right?
Yeah.
And even if you have everything, like if I tell you everything you wish for, you're going to have it in this moment.
Yeah.
Well, how long is it going to take till something is going to rise and
shit,
you're going to say, well, this could be a little bit, maybe I move the couch a little bit over there, right? Yeah, this small stuff. There's always like, for me, this is really like something that I just realized. I mean, we say a lot of smart stuff. But a lot of times you say smart stuff, but you don't really get it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? You don't get it in the full depth. That's what you said before. Everybody says, money won't make you happy.
Yeah.
This won't make you happy. This will make it. You really need to realize that this is the most fundamental truths in life you hear all the time, but they're so simple that you don't hear them anymore. You know what I'm saying?
You hear them too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
It's like, I heard this before. Maybe 100%. I check out this other teacher. Maybe 100%. I check out this other thing, because you always want something that hypes you, but you haven't done the basics yet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's and pain, any kind of pain, relationship pain or health issues and stuff like that, that'll make you grow spiritually.
100%. 100%.
But growth, another thing, growth is, if you want to be happy, you need to grow. This is the most important thing. If you don't grow anymore, you're dying. In any aspect of life, you know, whatever it is. If you don't train your body, you're gonna get weaker. If you don't train your mind, you're gonna get weaker.
Yeah, there's no stagnation. It's only either you progress or you move backwards.
But I think a lot of people that are in this stay hungry, and I mean, stay hungry is actually the Arnold Schwarzenegger way, you know, stay hungry and stuff. If you watch his new Netflix documentary,
everybody tells me about it. I gotta watch that thing.
It's really good. It's really good because he's getting down to, you know, like real honest truth of things, and I like that, you know, when you look at it, there's a lot to take away from that.
It's so cool you mentioned that. Just what is it today? Sunday. On Friday,
yeah,
I was having brunch with my real estate mentor, and he also is like, yeah, have you seen the Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary? He's so real in it. He's real. So openly, exactly the same words that you're saying. He's so openly talk about his ups and downs. And because I saw it on Netflix that it's on there, but I read his autobiography, so I'm like, it's just going to be his autobiography on Netflix, basically, right? But his autobiography, I remember reading it, it's much more like, yeah, and then I did this, and then I crushed it, and then I did that, and that was really easy, kind of like that. But people keep saying in the documentary, it's much more about he's getting older, and therefore he's a little bit more mellowed, more evened out. A little less like, just go get shit done. More like, hey, you know, here's how it really is.
Everything starts with the hero story. I like the loser story. Because to tell the loser story is much harder, you know? If you can be honest about the stuff you fucked up, and if you can be honest about the lies you told yourself or you told others, you know, in order to be something or to be somebody. And once you realize this all doesn't matter, and you know, and life is about different things, then you can be more honest. And I guess this is an age thing. This is something that like wine ripes, I hope, you know. It's it helps. And I think with Arnold, I saw that transition just in that Netflix documentary. I really liked it. Yeah, it was really nice.
I'm gonna watch that. For sure. Okay, if two people within 3 days tell me, two people that I respect very highly, I've got to watch it. Have you ever been in touch with him ever since then, with Arnold?
I met him once in the Gold's Gym, you know, a few years ago, and because he's working out there still and stuff. But you know, it was not like a close relationship maintained. You know, back then he was the biggest star, but you know, I was at the premiere of Twins and with him and all this kind of stuff. So yes, but that was many years ago. So. But we did not stay in touch, and you know. So did you talk to him? In the gym back then.
So hey, what's up? Did he recognize you?
Well, I guess so. Yes. I mean, we were talking about, you know, the thing is, it's like when people talk about stars and stuff like that, you know, they always see it from afar.
Yeah.
But if you're in Los Angeles, you know, you get like. With him and all the guys that work out, it's very easy, you know, to get in touch with them. I mean, I was working out with Jean-Claude Van Damme. I was working out with what's his name, with Charlie Sheen. He was there. Like lots of people like that, you know.
Legendary. That's funny. Yeah, whenever I see footage of Arnold Schwarzenegger working out in the Gold's Gym, I always think it's just a marketing thing. Oh yeah, he's
there every day. He's there every day. He's every day. He's every day. You go. No, he's every. No, people leave him alone. People leave him alone, and he's really good about keeping his distance. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's most of the time he's there with Ralph Möller. Ralph is also a German bodybuilder from back then. He's one of his big friends, and then there's. I don't know if the guy's still alive, Sven Ole Thorsen, that's also one of the guys, and they ride the Harleys together.
Nice.
And in the morning, he comes there with his bike, and he works out, and you can go see him.
It's cool to know that they're just leaving him the fuck alone, you know, that people get it. It must be hard.
It's not like with the Kardashians, you know, they are followed anywhere. I've never seen that with him, to be honest, you know, this extreme pop. I mean, I'm sure he has it too, but... that was always kind of like mellow. He like was one of the guys there, you know.
That's cool. That's also why, you know, I've said this a lot recently, especially like money over fame is important, because we adore famous people and we want to be like them, but once we are, it sucks. And I'm not even nowhere near being known enough to be called famous, but I already see negative repercussions of it, that it already impedes my freedom. And imagine that. You're Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, you could be lucky if you could go to the Gold's Gym and be left alone. You can't just walk down the street. You can't just go outside, have a couple drinks with your friends, and do some stupid shit, because it's going to be on the news the next day. It's going to be in the newspaper. People are going to talk about it. People are going to film it, right? So I always bring this example of, like, imagine you're Brad Pitt. Everybody thinks, oh, Brad Pitt's life must be so awesome. No, you're a prisoner. Where do you go as Brad Pitt? You have your villa. If you want to travel somewhere, you go with private jet somewhere. So when you leave your villa, you have to be in a darked out SUV. Probably it brings you straight to the VIP terminal. Then you land somewhere, whatever. You go to Mykonos, right? So now you're in Mykonos. You have to stay in your resort, because if you go just to the beach, there's all these normal people. They're going to film you. They're going to ask you for autographs. You have to stay at your little bastion of richness, to stay at your resort, because there they deal with people like you. So here they're professional, right? But you can't just go somewhere. You can't just be like, oh, I want ice cream. Let me just go to the store real quick. I mean, probably you'll have people that bring you ice cream, which is also nice. But what I'm saying is...
In Kiev at night, we'll find a way for the rich and famous. We get them an ice cream.
But the thing is, like, I remember, like I'm just like... it was a couple of years ago. I was at McDonald's somewhere in Austria, just random McDonald's on a highway, right? And I'm just like, I'm hungry. I'm full on binge eating, and I ordered the burgers, and I'm getting ready, and I'm just starting to destroy the burger. And some guys like, oh my God, Max, can I have a photo? And I'm like, I really just want to eat my freaking burger, you know? But now I have to, like, my mouth is stuffed. I got breadcrumbs all over me. And I'm, like, on the picture with the guy, like, her, you know. And I'm thinking, like, and I even remember sometimes I was walking down the street and someone wanted, you know, to talk to me. And I kind of brushed him off. I'm like, hey, man, like, I got to go to the gym. It's nice to meet you, you know. And then literally the next day I read on a forum, like, oh, Max is an asshole. I met him. He's just arrogant and stuff like that.
You have to be careful, yeah.
Yeah, you got to be careful. So... imagine that times thousands if you're Arnold Schwarzenegger or Brad Pitt.
I always wanted to be famous when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I thought it would be the greatest thing, you know, to be really famous. And to be honest, this is not something that, if I would now have the choice to be known all over the world, I'd rather not be.
Exactly.
I'd rather not be. And I find it funny that to hear myself saying that.
Yeah,
because
you always wanted it.
Long time. I mean, it was not the main thing that I pursued or anything, because then I would have probably became a rock star or something else, right?
Yeah.
But there was still this idea, you know, that this would be a great life to be famous. And to be honest, all the kind of famous people I know, I mean, I have also in my coaching business, you know, I have some people that are from politics, and I have people out of business, and you know, that are known. I don't think it's a great life from what they tell me, because they tell me everything.
Yeah.
Like really everything. And there's nothing with that is, I mean, of course it comes with certain pleasures. Of course,
sure,
you know,
yeah.
you get a place in a nice restaurant easier, and, you know, people. But then again, all your friends, you're not sure, you know, is this a fangirl, fanboy thing?
Yeah.
Is it?
But
I would not want it.
Here's the thing. Imagine you're the owner of these toy toilets, you know, the portable toilet things, you know, they see on festivals, on construction sites and all.
Nobody knows this guy.
Nobody knows who the hell you are. I don't know how much this guy makes, the CEO of this toilet company. He probably makes whatever his 20-50 million a year profit, probably even more.
Yeah.
Like, you can still get the nice spot at the restaurant. You can still drive the Bugatti.
You can have everything,
You can go anywhere you want. You can pass out drunk and high in Amsterdam, partying up with your homies. Nobody will care. You know what I mean? So that's the ultimate freedom. Brad Pitt isn't free. He's in a golden cage.
What I see is also that if you look at the most like rock stars, you know, look at them 10 years later. Either, you know, they kind of like stepped back, they kind of like give back to others, they found their new purpose, they do it, or they're totally fucked up.
Yeah.
It only goes those two ways.
True.
And it's much easier to go the bad way. It's much easier. Like if you look, most of them, they're not really happy. They're not really. So yes, I guess this is not something that I'm gonna have to be still aiming for at this stage.
It's a genie you can't put back in the bottle, how they say.
I remember when I was in Austria on the television all the time. I remember walking down Marie-Hilfer-Straße, right? And I was with one of my kids, and I was like the Austrian relationship coach, people knew me, right? And one of my kids does something, I don't remember what it was, you know? And I was almost, like to burst out, really tell him something or her something, I don't know. And at the same moment, like right in that second, some old lady stepped, you're the so-and-so guy from television and stuff. And I was like, wow, she just saved me right now. 2 minutes later, I would have lost my whole reputation, I guess.
Damn, exactly. And then, you're also financially dependent on it. Meaning, like, if someone films this, it can ruin your whole brand and stuff like that. Nowadays, everybody got cell phones, But, here's a question that I wanted to ask you. What do you think... Because you mentioned now you got really rich, really famous clients, and you just somehow got into that. How do you get people to open up to you like that? You have this in your demeanor. I can feel it. I can see it. You have this I can tell you everything kind of vibe.
I can tell you how I do it. Because I talk to people like I've known them for years. And I know... After all these times working with people, I know pretty quick whether they tell me bullshit or if it's the truth. That goes really quick. And that's especially with people that are rich or famous or feel entitled in any way, a lot of people will like back off of telling them the truth or saying the hard thing to say. Like I met this one guy, right? He came. And he was like, I was talking to him for 30 minutes or something like that. And he told me a little bit about his life. And then he told me one of his biggest problems is that he thinks that, all the women, they just like him for his money. And I said to him, well, after talking to you for 30 minutes, I believe you're right. Because you got not much more to offer. So you want to work on that. And they love that honesty, And I like to be that kind of guy, that tells them. That's also kind of like my style, right? And because I'm not...
You're not sugarcoating
I'm not,
things?
no, and I'm not afraid to let down my own pants. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I will tell you every bullshit about my life if you want to hear. I can tell you about my mistakes and everything that I've done. So therefore, I'm not scared of saying things that other people probably won't say that way.
Yeah.
And that helps me a lot in that kind of work.
And that makes
to be eye level with them, because most
Yeah.
people, they're like... They're looking up, or they're afraid to say the wrong thing, or I can't tell him that, or I can't tell her that. The quicker you step in, that's kind of like my thing. That's what I like to do.
And that's why people.
And it doesn't impress me, to be honest. It does not. The problem is, it does not impress me. Like, I mean, of course, if I see a nice mansion, or if I see somebody driving a Bugatti or something, okay, this is a Bugatti, this is a nice mansion. But I've seen so many mansions, just going around Beverly Hills, you see so many, everything is, and there's always something more, and there's always something bigger, and there's this next, even bigger building in Dubai, and they have even bigger diamonds. And I'm like, okay, I've seen all the diamonds and all the buildings in the world now. It's not, you're gonna...
It's a good point that you're bringing up, and I remember specifically this hilarious story. I'm not sure in how much detail we can go, but where you helped a very rich person marry a supermodel.
Well, we're gonna go shallow on that story.
Yeah, let's go shallow. We don't want to.
It's a truth. Yes, it's the truth.
Tell me what you can talk about, because it's a hilarious hell story.
What can I talk about? Well, the guy, he fell in love with a well-known model, and he wanted to meet her, and he wanted to date her.
And she stopped replying to his texts or something like that?
Well, I wrote texts for him and all kinds of stuff.
So at first, she stops replying to his texts.
He was one of my clients, and I helped him out, and then he kind of like met her, and then he wanted to kind of like go from there. And so I stepped in and played a little Cyrano de Bergerac, if you know that story.
Wait, what?
Cyrano, you don't know that?
No.
Well, that's the guy that it's an old tale where the guy, he whispers what what I think the king should say to his lover and stuff like that. He's like a whisperer, right? Yeah. And I kind of like helped with that, and yeah, that worked out quite well. But I don't want to step too deep into that story because this is I have to respect the privacy.
But of course, but that's badass. You know, that you're like, I'll help you with the texts. You know, let's go do it.
That was actually something I would never do again, to be honest, because once you do that, you know, then there is like other occasions, you know, like birthdays and Easter and other stuff, you know, and you always have to write a text. So that gets kind of hard.
And nowadays you can ask ChatGPT maybe.
Probably, yeah.
But honestly, I'm telling you, come to Cyprus. If you really want to do the second residency here, I'm here all the time. I love it so much here, and I think you'll love it here too. And
really?
Yeah. I really, really recommend it. It's so, you know, a funny side note here. It's so full of entrepreneurs, online entrepreneurs do exactly the same as you and me.
Of course.
It's so funny. Just the other day I was at the gym and I'm walking up and I'm warming up for overhead press. I just arrived, a guy comes up to me, he's like, Max, I don't know if you remember me. Last year we met here. I took a picture with you. I'm like, cool. He's like, I've been meaning to ask you, can I join your mastermind? And I'm like, just warming up. I'm like, oh yeah, sure. You DM me on Instagram. I'll sign you up, you know. 2 days later, he bought for $14K. So I was like, that's a lucrative
workout.
A lucrative bench press, a lucrative upper body press that I've just done. Things like that happen all the time in Cyprus. And it's great. And it's like, you know what I also really like here is that the vibration, if you want to call it, is really, really high. Because it's not like South America where everybody's 4 hours too late and it's too laid back. It's not like Germany and Austria where everybody's just like stressed. And it's not like when you go to like a resort where the waiter or the hotel staff is ultra nice to you because it's their freaking job, or God beware, because they want to have your money. People here are just nice because it's a fucking beautiful island in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. They're very relaxed, but at the same time, it's European Union. You can get your shit done. Maybe not as fast and as diligently as Germany and Austria, but you get it done. It's not too extreme.
Yeah.
And the food is so good. Everything grows here. Bananas, papayas grow here, kiwi, oranges, all the vegetables, tomatoes. And if you know a good butcher...
Have you been around Cyprus? Did you look at it already, or you've just always stayed in one place?
I've been to Larnaca. Larnaca I don't like. Okay. It's a city.
Have you been to the mountains?
We drove up. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So we drive around sometimes. I stayed in Lachi, which is more like the water sports area. It's a little bit too remote. Limassol is really nice. Limassol is blowing up right now. Paphos is also blowing up. They're going to have a university there. One of the most prestigious universities of Lebanon is moving here.
Oh, really?
And there's going to just be 3,000 people moving here. They're all students. So they're going to build infrastructure there. It's that town, that little city is going to...
So you're really looking to stay here more often?
Yeah, like I said, because every time I come here, I'm like, I got to go to Cyprus again. Because I have to stay 60 days per year here because I need to pay taxes somewhere.
Only 60?
Only 60.
I thought 100 and...
No, 60. Here's the thing. Because I travel so much, I don't have a tax residency anywhere. Because nowhere I'm staying longer than the necessary 180 days. So originally I wanted to pay taxes in Austria, right? And then I go to my tax consultant and he's like, you can't pay taxes here. And I'm like, why not? You're not spending enough money here, and you're not spending enough days here. You're just spending 160 days here. Austria doesn't want your money. So I'm like, well, I got to pay taxes somewhere, right? Because
that's the first time I ever heard that Austria doesn't want the money from anybody. Normally, people complain about the taxes
because
in
I'm
Austria.
never there. I'm spending maybe a month, a year there. I mean, you know it. Every time I'm there, I'll hit you up because I just travel too much. But so you could argue, well, if you're tax resident nowhere, just don't pay taxes anywhere, which is a solution. But the problem is, once I do start investing in real estate and stuff like that, they're going to ask, hey, where did you pay your taxes for the last 5 years? Oh, nowhere. Some people are not going to have a problem with that, but some people will. And I definitely do want to pay taxes. I want to do my part. I think it's everybody's duty, at least to a degree, to pay your taxes. And Cyprus has this thing where you spend 60 days a year here, boom, you're tax resident here. And the cool thing is, of course, taxes are lower. You get 12.5% on corporate taxes. Number two, 60 days a year is much less than 160 days. It's 2 months. Number three, it's in the European Union. So you're not paying taxes somewhere in Guatemala or whatnot. You're paying in the European Union. So meaning everything is super transparent. You have to have ultra tight bookkeeping, which means you have to have every business expense needs to be shown with with an invoice and all that, which is cool. I like that. I'm happy to do that. Plus, and this is the kind of coolest thing, is like there's so much worse places where you have to spend 60 days.
Yes, that's a
especially
good thing.
I usually come here March, April-ish, and then October, November, which is exactly where it starts getting cold and gray in mainland Europe. And here it's 25 degrees. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. You get some extra sun in. And every time I come here, I get super shredded. I get in incredible shape because all I do is I just eat my steak, I eat the fruit, and I work out. I'm ultra happy. I'm super grounded because I wake up in the morning, I take my morning walk, I take a swim. I have a great massage therapist.
Better
here.
energy than
exactly. And I get a lot of shit done because I don't have any distraction. I come here and I work. Gym, massage, walk, sleep, repeat. And on the weekends, sometimes I hang out with friends like you who are coming in to visit me. We go for some fat dinner somewhere. We go have a good time. We smoke some shisha. We go to the beach or we hang out. But that's it. And I get so much stuff done and I come back happier, more shredded, and richer than before. So really, I'd love for you to come here, man. Then we rent villas next to each other every single time and just shoot epic podcasts like this one.
But then you have to make sure that the balcony is exactly above the pool so you can jump in. I already noticed that. We don't do this here anymore. It's not a good location.
It's so good. That was the first thing I said when we came here. I'm like, I think I could jump. I literally said that.
But it'll be pretty. Yeah,
I've done it before in other villas. We have footage.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. It's possible. But here, you probably hit the deck.
It's a tad bit too far away, and then it's not because the deep end is over here.
Yeah, it'll be pretty far jump to here.
Yeah.
You probably won't make that.
With running, you could. If you can run nicely on the roof, but I think it's so high up that you'd still hit the bottom here.
From the roof.
Yeah.
We're not gonna try that tonight. We're not gonna try that tonight. Otherwise, it'll be the last podcast.
I could do the calculations.
that it's me.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that. I love.
What happened to Max? Well, I got him to jump in his pool, and that was it. But we got a great video. We're gonna get lots of views.
I always say that when we're filming something, I'm like, if something happens, keep filming. That's just like, if it's, I'm already hurting anyways. Might as well get a good clickbait video from it. It's not gonna help you to.
You're all in.
It's not gonna help me if you stop filming. It's not gonna make the pain go away. It's not gonna magically heal me. So might as well. Gonna pay the hospital bill. I don't know. So that's always.
Did you have any major bones broken yet?
Yeah.
Because you're
not major bones. I've broke my ankle once.
Okay.
As a kid on the typical trampolines in Austria,
Yeah.
I kicked the door when I was, I think, 16 and broke my toe. It was full on broken through.
Which one?
The big toe.
The big toe
right
is
side.
bad.
And they literally, they did the x-ray and they're like, your toe is perfectly broken. It's just a perfect
the way it's supposed to be.
All the way through. Not even cracked, just full on broken.
What they do, and you get a cast?
I got a cast all the way up to the knee.
Yeah.
For a whole summer. God damn it. But the funny thing is, I kicked the door, didn't notice anything, right? I was just like, it hurt a little bit more than I thought. 2 minutes later, when the adrenaline comes down, I'm like, I can't even walk. Oh, fuck. I have to go to the hospital.
It hurts.
So I drove with the broken toe to the hospital. And, I could just barely hit the gas pedal and the brake, let alone the clutch. So I'm just driving to the hospital, like, somehow. And I parked over, not even exaggeration, over 2 disabled parking spots because I couldn't reverse. And, I just stood on 2 disabled parking lots. And I just I crawled towards the entrance of the hospital and 2 doctors are smoking outside. And they're like, do you have a problem? And I'm like, I'm limping my and I'm like, what does it look like? I'm going to the hospital. I'm limping. Why do you think I'm here? Because my head? No, it's my freaking leg.
I had a guy once, and he was his girlfriend. She was cheating on him, right? So he's sitting on his couch, right, and he hears her in the kitchen talking to some guy on the phone, right?
That's also not smart of her.
Well, yeah, that was the beginning of the story. Anyways, he was sitting there, and there was his couch table, and a couch table out of I do things. So this couch table out of glass, right? And underneath there was a bag of chips.
Oh, no.
And he got mad, so he wanted to kick the bag of chips.
Oh.
But he oversaw that there was this table, and he broke his leg.
Oh.
He broke his leg. Anyways, story goes on. I told him, get rid of her. She doesn't love you. Distance yourself from that relationship. And some people, they don't want to listen. Anyways, he decides afterwards that he's going to stay with her, even she cheated on him many times. And she said to him that everything will be fine. All he needs to do is buy a horse for her. So, wait a second. So he bought the horse, of course. The horse was lonely, so they got a second horse. And I told him, this is all bull. Don't do this. Don't distance. You already got your leg broken from this stuff. If life shows you in little steps, that you're going the wrong direction. Anyways, last thing happened. He called me like a year later because he didn't listen to me, and I said, well, then I can help you because I can't help you because I'm telling you this won't be a good thing. Anyways, a year later he calls me and he says, you were right. She left with the Reitlehrer, the horse trainer. She left with this, and the two horses, they're on my yard, and they killed the whole yard. They made everything.
Oh, no.
They ruined the whole garden, everything, right? So because he left them out and stuff, and that's how he ended. So sad story. Yeah, sad story.
So what I take from that is, when you're buying
listen
horses,
to my advice and don't buy horses for a girl.
When you buy horses for a girl, it could be a sign that something is off. It could be. Oh, jeez. Yeah, Dominik. Where can people find you? When people are gonna listen to this, they're like, Dominik is a cool guy. Where should they find you?
Social Dynamic.
Okay.
Just Google it. Socialdynamic.at or de or com, whatever.
For the German-speaking fellows.
For the German-speaking fellows, yes.
Instagram.
On Instagram, you find us on Facebook, you find us pretty much everywhere.
Awesome. Last words?
Oh my God, what are last words? My last words? I don't know. What are my last words?
Look, from my perspective, I gotta say, you've been a very, very big influence on my life, about which I'm very, very grateful. Even more so grateful I am is that I can count you as a very close friend. And that's absolutely beautiful to say.
Oh, thank you.
And it's absolutely cool that you came all this way just to be on the podcast. And in the future, when we're neighbors in Cyprus, let's crush and have some good cheat days, man.
Well, actually, to be honest, you've been an influence on my life as well, because I never would have changed my whole approach to this business without, some of the inputs you gave me and some of the great feedback you gave me. So that helped a lot. Also, thank you from my part on that, because that's also another thing is you can learn from people that don't have any assumptions because somebody is younger or somebody doesn't look the part or somebody.
Which is clearly the case for
you
me.
can no that's not, well, yeah, with all the tattoos and stuff, but look who's talking, right?
Yeah.
But there's always something you can learn from people, and stay humble and appreciative of everything that other people can give to you, because there's always something to learn.
100%, and it's cool to hear that I could have an influence on you too, and that's kind of like this whole upward spiral. You can only win by giving. There's no doubt, because sometimes people are like, man, if I help that person, maybe they're gonna do this other thing, and that's gonna somehow take away from me, right? But you helped me entirely for free in the very beginning when I was at your seminar. And I remember even afterwards, years later, I had an issue with my girlfriend back then, and I still messaged you. I'm like, hey, remember I was at your seminar 2 years ago? And you literally hopped on a freaking call with me and just talked to me for an hour and helped me out in that situation. Never asked for anything. And that really helped me. And then, when I had the chance to help you out and give you some new insights, for me it was like a fucking course. And
it's like seeds you plant.
Exactly.
Your whole life.
It's seeds you plant.
You know about game theory, right? That whole thing, And in the beginning of your life, you can be egotistic about things, and you can put yourself in front of the stage and elbow everybody out. But the longer you do it, you then have to live with that, what you built from there. So people that help build friendships, help others, you always get that crop back later on in the future.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to say. Those who saw wind will harvest storm.
Mm-hmm.
How's that saying going? Something like that. But yeah, it's beautiful. So I'm happy that we're here. Look, the light in the pool went on.
Oh wow,
that's a beautiful
full feature here.
That's a beautiful way to wrap things up. So folks, check out Dominik's stuff, especially if you're German speaking. He's the real OG. The OG of personal development, dating, relationship advice. And I'll have you back on a podcast at some point, hopefully very soon.
We'll do that.
GG.
Thank you.
That was good. That was epic, man. That was fucking baller, man.